Welcome to Eyes on Books. I'm so glad you're joining us today, and I think you're going to really enjoy our interview with our latest author. I'm Elaine Schnitter. My co-host this morning is Tom Nash, and we're going to be discussing the book, The Martha's Vineyard Beach and Book Club. And the author is Martha Hall Kelly. Martha will be joining us after we tell you a little bit about the book. And I hope you enjoy hearing about the book, and I hope you enjoy hearing what Martha has to say about her process in writing the book. So I'll have Tom introduce you a little bit to the story, and then he and I will chat a bit about it.
Well, this book was definitely a page turner, and it's more than enough plot for one book. It seemed like a lot was happening. But the story is told in two levels, or two time periods, pretty much current, which she put at 2016. In 2016, we see a young woman by the name of Mari, who was curious about an older woman by the name of Elizabeth Devereaux, because she discovered in her mother's things some reference to this woman. She wonders who she is, and it's on Martha's Vineyard, and she sees that there's an opportunity to go back and take some art class or coaching from this established artist by the name of Devereaux. So she does, and she meets Elizabeth and confesses to her that I came partly because I found your flyer among my mother's things, and I wondered why she was interested. And Elizabeth says, well, I want you to hear a story. And so for the next 3 days, Elizabeth tells this elaborate story. And the story is set in 1942 on Martha's Vineyard, and it involves there are several main characters, but two sisters, the Smith sisters, Briar, the youngest one, and her little bit older sister, Cadence. Cadence is described as unusually beautiful. And then their older brother, Tom, and their grandmother that they live with, and Bess. And so they get into all kinds of issues and that sort of thing. It turns out that in 1942 it was really true that the U.S. military was training on parts of Martha's Vineyard, and so it involves there. It involves seeing U-boats, which people did actually see, and a spy. And, there's just all kinds of spicy stuff happening in the book, in this story that Elizabeth Devereaux is telling. And so the bulk of the book is this story that she tells. Do you want to pick it up there?
Yeah, so it's a story within a story. And the interesting about Mari, the girl from California, she pulled together enough money. She was working at a juice bar and just making minimum wage, put together whatever money she had and bought a round-trip ticket to go to Martha's Vineyard. And she really was supposed to go back home to California the following day. She was supposed to just be there for one day. But Mrs. Devereaux insisted she stay with her on this very vintage farm called Copper Pond Farm. Right. And she wanted to tell her a story. And Mari agreed, and Mari became curious about what the story was all about. And then Mrs. Devereaux, of course, introduced her to the island, and also kind of played matchmaker with Mari, with a young man they had met when she first got off the boat. His name was Ronan. So that was one story. And then, of course, the major story was the one that Mrs. Devereaux told Maury during the book, which took place in 1942, about the, as Tom said, the sisters and their friend and their grandmother.
And we'll see when we interview the author that the author had a lot of roots in the same area too. So she was telling a lot of things that happened in her own family. We'll hear about that. But so eventually they come to the end of Mrs. Devereaux's story. Maury then has to try to figure out how she relates to the story. And she does. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the ending was somewhat of a surprise. You kind of were led to believe that there was a connection along the way, but you weren't really sure what the connection was.
Right.
But then at the end, we did find out how it all evolved. But the author does a wonderful job when she writes about women and the relationships among women. And these girls that we mentioned, Cadence and Briar and Bess, and the grandmother as well, started a book club during the summer in Martha's Vineyard. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of their way of protesting against everything else. They made themselves a flag, put the flag up on the beach, and then read their books. And they were very much island girls. They were not summer visitors, although their friend Bess was a girl who was actually a summer visitor, but she wanted to stay with them because she was the girlfriend of their brother Tom. So.
Yeah, and even though the story is primarily about women, I wouldn't put it in the category chick flick, chick lit, which I have no interest in. This was not necessarily written for women because there are really important issues, historic references and that sort of thing. I think I enjoyed it, and I think most men would enjoy it too.
Oh, I do too. I just think that this author has a real knack for kind of delving into women and how they relate to one another in situations, because the sisters, Cadence and Briar, were very different from one another. Cadence was an aspiring writer, and Briar was just very interested in the war and artifacts from the past. And
she was kind of a rebel. She dressed in cast-off men's clothing, typically, yes. and she was definitely did her own thing. Got into trouble a couple of times.
She did. She loved to snoop around on the island and find things. And there was a shop on the island where a woman, her name was Sandra, she became friendly with her, and Sandra sold a lot of war memorabilia and a lot of island-type items like scrimshaw. And Briar was very much into all of those memorabilia.
Yeah, she had an illegal two-way radio she wasn't supposed to have and got in trouble for using it.
Yeah. And she used to climb a tree with her binoculars and look out at the harbor. And she did spy U-boats, but of course no one believed her.
Yeah, they called her Briar the Liar because she called in U-boat reports so often that they, after a while, wouldn't even listen to her.
Call Wolf. She was calling Wolf all the time.
She was, I think, probably everybody's favorite person because she was so kind of unique.
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, a real page turner, loved it, and now I want to read some of the other books that that our author has written, and we'll be talking with our author in just a little short break here.
Yeah, and I think you're all going to enjoy meeting her and hearing what she has to say about Martha's Vineyard and about her future writing.
We're very happy now to introduce the author of the book that we've enjoyed so much. This is Martha Hall Kelly. And Martha is coming to us from her home in Connecticut, not too far away from Martha's Vineyard. And we really enjoyed the book. It was a real page turner, and you have quite an imagination apparently, but a lot of this is not from your imagination, it's from your experience. So tell us a little bit about kind of how you came up with the concept.
Sure. Well, my mother's family came to Martha's Vineyard in 1891. So, and she grew up there. And so she's always told us stories about Martha's Vineyard, especially during World War II, because that's what we always asked about. Because there was a lot going on out on Martha's Vineyard, as people who have already read the book know. But a lot of that was lost to time. So I just wanted to bring that back and to bring people back to 1942 when the book is set, just to show them what a simpler, wonderful time that was on the island and in the whole country. Everybody was very pulling at the same oar politically, and it was a kinder, gentler time. And when my daughter is actually out in California at the time, my daughter said, "Mom, you should write about your mother." And I would read that. She's in her 30s. And I just thought, now might be the time to write about my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it comes across very well, Elaine.
Yes, it really does. It was, for me, a real reminder of childhood. I was quite young in 42, but I do remember the effects that the war had on my family. I lived in New Jersey, and we were always aware of something offshore. As little children, we didn't know quite what it was, but there was a certain fear. So it brought back a lot of history, Martha. I appreciated that. Yeah, it was, well, yeah,
It's been
I remember
lost
that.
to time.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things get lost to time, isn't it? Even though at the time it was a big story that there were U-boats up and down the eastern seaboard, and they were all around the Cape Cod and the islands, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. And even though the Chamber of Commerce, because those were vacation islands, was really trying to keep that quiet, there was a lot of U-boat activity and a lot of rumors about spies. And, there were actual German spies that had come on shore in both on Long Island and in Florida. So tension was pretty high.
I was curious as to how you named your characters the way that you did, especially Briar and Cadence.
Yeah, interesting
I
names.
love those names.
Yeah.
Well, Cadence, I was out in Bolinas, actually, out in California, and one of our waitresses at this wonderful restaurant, her name was Cadence, and I just thought, ooh, I love, that's such a beautiful name. So that's how Cadence happened. And then Briar, who's the younger sister of the Smith sisters, based on, my family. Briar, I loved because Briar's a little prickly. She's really, really smart, 16 years old, somewhat neurodivergent. And I felt like Briar was kind of the perfect name for her. She doesn't always get along with everyone, but weirdly, she has become everybody's favorite character in the book. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, she was offbeat enough, so you really paid attention to her. Her choice of wardrobe was pretty interesting, and she liked to climb a tree with her binoculars and look out to see what was offshore.
Was she modeled after somebody particular in your family?
Weirdly, Cadence is my mom, because my mom always wanted to get off of Martha's Vineyard. And Cadence has that, wanderlust. And Cadence also loves books. But weirdly, I patterned Briar more after my father, because he was very much into war history, and also he loved to find things. And Briar is way into scouring the beach for all sorts of things that used to wash up. And my dad had one of those metal detectors. Some people still have them, and they're on the beach looking for things. He had lost his wedding ring when he was newly married. And I swear he was always, I don't know, looking for that particular ring, but he was always finding all sorts of metal on the beaches. So I kind of brought him back in her.
And what about Bess? She was another interesting character, the friend.
Oh, I love Bess. Bess is modeled after my mother's best friend. She had two best friends, and one was Betty Cottle and one was Shirley Kennedy. And Shirley is still with us. She's in her 90s. She won't say how old, but I can do the math. She's in her mid-90s and doing so beautifully, and she helped me a lot. She filled me in on all the things that I had never asked my mother, like my mother's old boyfriends that I didn't know about, and how my mom got in trouble a couple of times. And, you know, they were switchboard operators during the war, and they all got let go. My mom had a bad arm and couldn't get to the plugs quickly enough. So Shirley told me a lot of great stories, but I patterned Bess, who is the best friend of the sisters, and she's a very wealthy girl as a character. And she comes from Edgartown, which is kind of the more wealthy town on Martha's Vineyard. And she is, she and her family have quarreled because she moves in with the Smiths because their brother, Tom, is her boyfriend. So I love Bess. She's one of my favorite characters.
She made some tough decisions, too, in that story. It was interesting. She was a strong girl.
Oh, Bess made strong decisions. Yeah. You know, I think women still are, you know, I think the stronger sex, but I feel like back then they went through so much and they had each other. It was such a small community, that island. And I feel like they really all came together. And also they were holding a farm together. That farm is based on my mother's real farm. The farmhouse is still there today. And my grandmother, who the grandmother in the book is based on my Grandma Smith, and she lost her husband when her four little kids were young. He had a heart attack right at the kitchen table, and my mother was sitting right there. She was a child. And he went to get his nitroglycerin pills, and they spilled, my mother said, all over the table, and he died right there in front of her. So that was traumatic. And my grandmother kept the family together by selling donuts, and partly taking in laundry, cleaning people's houses. She did whatever she had to do. And I think, you know, hopefully that strength was passed down through the generations. I see it in my own children. But one of the stories that my mom used to talk about was the soldiers on the island, because there was an army base called Peaked Hill just up the street from where my mom lived. And the soldiers used to come in convoys on their way back, and they would stop for my grandmother's warm donuts. She sold them for 25 cents a dozen. I don't know how she made any money doing that. But my mom used to talk about how handsome their boys were. Now, they were from all over, these soldiers. They're from California and Texas, but the island thought of them as their boys. And she said when they went off, no one realized that they were training for Normandy on Martha's Vineyard, because the coastlines are very similar. And after the war, she said the whole island was just in mourning, because almost 50% of those that were on the invasion barges at Normandy didn't come home. So my mom used to talk about that a lot and how sad it was, and I knew that I had to put that in the book.
The Copper Pond Farm in the book is paralleled with your family's farm on the island. Was it the same name, or?
No, my great-grandfather now came from Scotland. He was a real crab. He had a big quarrel with Farmer Green, who owned the property next door, they had a property dispute, and family lore has it that he chopped off a little piece of Farmer Green's finger with a garden hoe because Farmer Green, they were having an argument. Who knows if it's true, but I have a feeling it might have been. There are a lot of stories about him, but weirdly, he started a flower farm. They had moved from New Bedford, and where they worked in the mills. My great-grandmother had picked up spools in the mill since she was 5 years old. And so they retired and started this flower farm. This crabby man had this beautiful flower farm. In my book, it is Copper Pond Farm, and they grow potatoes. As you know, there's a reason for that in the book, but
Right.
they have beautiful flowers as well. But I made some adjustments in our actual Smith farm.
Well, we really enjoyed the book, and I think we both recommend it highly. So we're curious as to what you're working on now.
Yes, tell us about what you're working on.
Well, I am working on another Martha's Vineyard book that actually takes place on Martha's Vineyard in the 1970s and in Laurel Canyon, and it's about the rise of folk rock in the 1970s.
Really?
And it's a lot of fun. It's based on true stories and real people, and I've never had so much fun writing a book.
That would be
It's
fun, wouldn't
more-
it? Yeah.
So,
It's called More Than Famous.
so
More than famous.
when shall we expect that?
Next year, next summer. I know.
Summer. Okay.
Yes, I'm still, putting the finishing touches on it, but it's really a lot of fun. I was born in 1957, so I was a little young for, all the real heyday of folk rock on Martha's Vineyard and Laurel Canyon, the Mamas and the Papas and all of that.
Right.
But I still remember a lot of it pretty well.
Yeah.
Oh, that should be fun. That really should. Congratulations on that. What a great idea.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really, you never know what's going to resonate with people, so I hope they love it.
Thank you.
I think so. We'll read it. Right.
Indeed. Well, thank you for the time, and thank you for writing the book. I enjoyed it a lot, and now I'm going to have to get into some of your previous books, I guess. So.
Yes.
So,
Oh, well, make sure you check out Lilac Girls. That was my big debut hit. So
Okay.
I had heard of that on lists. I belong to book groups, but I had never read it. So now I will. It's back on my list. So thank you.
good. That's another World War II, but that takes place, of course, in Germany and Poland and France. That is all about an all-female concentration camp called Ravensbrück that a lot of people didn't know about before I wrote that book. So I think it's a really interesting historical fiction.
How
So
did you get into to writing, and when did you decide you had this gift?
Well into my 50s. And that book came out 10 years ago. So I just discovered this story, I stumbled on it, of this woman who, her name was Caroline Faraday. And there's a museum, it's her house. She passed away in the 90s. And I went up to her house to see the lilacs because I love lilacs. And my mother did too, and she had just passed away. And I went up to the house and I discovered this story of how Caroline helped this group of concentration camp survivors, Polish Catholic women, very young girls. They were Girl Scouts. And they were experimented at Ravensbrück concentration camp. And she championed their cause. She was like the Schindler of for these women, and she brought them to the United States. The ones that survived. So I wrote the story of that from the point of view of Caroline, from one of the so-called rabbits. They were nicknamed the rabbits by the Nazis. So such a cruel nickname. And then the third point of view is the Nazi doctor, a female doctor named Herta Oberhauser, and they're all real people. So it was it was a real joy to write that, even though it was a difficult topic. Sometimes I had to go to Ravensbrück and see it for myself, which, was very moving. I met two of the rabbits, which was amazing. So that was that came out in 2016. So I think we're going to do an anniversary edition of that next year.
Well, congratulations. You write wonderful stories about women. That's a real
you.
talent.
I feel like there's a lot to make up for in the world, because for so long stories were written about men, and I feel like there's a lot of great stories about strong women.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we like that. We like those stories.
Well, thank you
Good,
again.
me too. It's very inspiring.
And we'll be anxiously awaiting your next book and getting caught up on some of the previous books while we wait.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you so much for
Martha.
having me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for today. I think we did a pretty nice job explaining this, and I hope that it resonates with our viewers. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.